Hi, I am Rosa, a home health aide with Visiting Angels for 11 years. I help with intimate details, buttoning cardigans, steadying someone as they stand, watching how many bites they manage before chewing becomes work. I check blood pressure twice and track trends. I test eye movement and hand strength, spotting subtle changes others miss. A new eyelid droop, sluggish tracking, waxy resistance in a grip. I do not diagnose. I document precisely and call the doctor with Bort-to-Fordings. Doctors see snapshots. I live in the long exposure. My duty? To hear the body's whispers before it screams and act before it is too late.
The steam from Rosa's thermos curled into the pre-dawn dark as she sat in her parked Corolla, waiting for 6:58 a.m. 2 minutes early was respectful. 2 minutes late was a broken promise. She unscrewed the lid of her Zojirushi travel mug, the one her daughter had gifted her, after Rosa complained for the third time about lukewarm coffee and let the scent of dark roast and cinnamon fill the car. This ritual was non-negotiable. 10 slow sips, both hands wrapped around the warm steel, eyes closed. In those 60 seconds, she wasn't a home health aide. She was just Rosa. Then the clock clicked to 7 o'clock, and she became what Mrs. Gable needed her to be. The house on Sycamore Lane smelled of lemon polish and slow decay. Not the dramatic decay of hospitals, no antiseptic sting, no beeping machines, but the quiet surrender of a body learning its limits. Rosa moved through the rooms with the soft-souled certainty of someone who knew where every floorboard groaned. She'd worked for Visiting Angels for 11 years, long enough to understand that care lived in the details no chart could capture. How Mr. Gable used to take his tea, 2 sugars, splash of cream. How his hands trembled less when he held a pen than when he tried to lift a spoon. How he'd started arranging his pill bottles in a perfect semicircle each morning like soldiers standing at attention. That was the first thing she noticed that Tuesday. The semicircle was broken. The blue metoprolol bottle sat apart from the others, tipped on its side as if nudged by an impatient finger. Rosa said nothing. She simply righted it, her thumb brushing the label. Then she watched. She watched as Mr. Gable struggled to button his cardigan, a task he'd mastered weeks ago after his stroke. She watched him stare at the television remote for a full minute before pressing the power button. She watched him push away his oatmeal after 3 bites, his jaw working in that tired way that meant chewing had become work. All small things, all explainable. A bad morning. A poor night's sleep, the slow, expected slide. But Rosa saw the pattern beneath the moments. And she saw what no one else had, the way his left eyelid drooped just a fraction more than the right when he grew fatigued. Not the stroke side droop everyone monitored. The left side, the new side. "Mr. Gable," she said gently, kneeling beside his armchair. "Can you look at my finger for me?" She held up her index finger, moving it slowly left to right. His eyes tracked it, but sluggishly on the leftward pass. She asked him to squeeze her hands, right hand, firm. Left hand, present, but with a faint waxy resistance, like pressing into cold clay. Her pulse quickened, but her voice remained a calm river. "Let's check your blood pressure." She unzipped her work bag, the black nylon one with the reinforced bottom that had survived 1,000 doorways, and wrapped the cuff around his arm. 188/94. High, but not alarming for him. She waited 5 minutes. Checked again. 192/96. She asked him to stand. He swayed, just barely, catching himself on the chair arm with his right hand. His left hand hung passively at his side. Rosa didn't call 911. She called Dr. Evans' office and spoke to the triage nurse in low, precise tones. New left-sided weakness, ptosis on the unaffected side, BP trending up. Onset unclear, but within the last 24 hours. She described the tipped pill bottle, the button struggle, the remote confusion not as complaints but as data points. The nurse listened. "Then get him to the ER. Now tell them it might be a posterior circulation event. In the ambulance." Mr. Gable gripped Rosa's wrist with his good hand. "You saw it," he whispered. Not a question. A statement of awe. At the hospital, the MRI confirmed it. A small, fresh clot in the vertebrobasilar artery. The top of the basilar syndrome, the neurologist called it. A silent stroke brewing in the brainstem, the part that controls balance, eye movement, and consciousness. Catch it hours later, and he might have woken up unable to swallow. A day later, he might not have woken up at all. Rosa stayed until his daughter arrived from 3 states away. As she finally walked toward the hospital exit, her shift long over, a young resident stopped her. "You're the aide?" he asked, glancing at her scrubs. She nodded. "The neurologist said you spotted signs even his residents missed. How?" Rosa considered the question. She thought of the 11 years of hands-on hours no medical student would ever log, the weight of a shoulder when helping someone stand, the texture of skin that's too dry or too clammy, the exact moment a voice loses its resonance. She thought of how doctors saw patients in snapshots, 15-minute appointments, quarterly checkups, but aides lived in the long exposure. They witnessed the slow fade frame by frame. "I watch the hands," she said simply. "And the eyes. Everything else can lie." The following Thursday, Rosa returned to the Sycamore Lane house. Mr. Gable was home, thinner, moving more slowly, but present. The semicircle of pill bottles sat perfectly on the kitchen table. He'd arranged them himself that morning, a victory. He didn't thank her with grand words. Instead, he pointed to the armchair beside his. "Sit," he said. "Tell me about your daughter's graduation." And as she spoke of caps and gowns and proud tears, he listened with his whole face, the left eyelid no longer drooping, the hands resting easy in his lap. Rosa realized then that what she'd seen wasn't just a medical anomaly. It was a language. The body speaks in whispers before it screams, in a tipped pill bottle, a missed buttonhole, a hesitation before a familiar gesture. Most people hear only the screams. But aides, custodians, bus drivers, baristas, they live in the whisper world. They notice the regular who stops ordering their usual coffee, the student who hasn't been to the library in 3 weeks, the neighbor whose curtains stay drawn too long. These aren't diagnoses. They're human signals. And in a world racing toward algorithmic care wearables that track heart rate, apps that monitor sleep, there remains no substitute for a practiced human gaze that knows what normal looks like for this person, in this chair, on this Tuesday morning. Rosa packed her bag to leave. As she zipped it shut, Mr. Gable reached into his pocket and pressed something into her palm. A smooth river stone, gray with a single white vein running through it. "My wife collected these," he said. "She said stones remember what water forgets." Rosa closed her fingers around it. Cool, solid, real. Driving home as dusk softened the edges of the city, she thought about how society measures contribution. We celebrate the surgeon's swift hands, the CEO's bold vision, the artist's brilliant stroke. But we rarely honor the slow, steady attention that catches a life before it slips away. The aide who notices. The neighbor who checks. The friend who reads the silence. This, too, is skilled labor, the skill of sustained attention, of remembering how someone takes their tea, of seeing the story written in a tipped pill bottle. She pulled into her driveway, the river stone still in her pocket. Her daughter would be home soon from her nursing shift. They'd sit at the kitchen table, 2 women who spent their days holding space for other people's fragility. They'd drink tea. They'd talk about small things. And in those small things, how the steam rose from the cup, how the light fell across the table, how a voice sounded slightly tired. They would read entire worlds. Because everything worth saving is hidden in the details we almost miss. And some of us are called to be the ones who look closely enough to see them. Rosa's reliable Zojirushi travel mug is a real product many healthcare workers swear by for keeping beverages hot through long shifts. If you're curious, you can explore options like the Zojirushi stainless steel mug on an online store. It's designed for durability and temperature retention. Though any well-insulated thermos that fits your routine serves the same quiet purpose, a small comfort that makes demanding work a little more human. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.